The Dallas Stars are back in action tonight, and they find themselves back in the friendly confines of the American Airlines Center. And on today's episode, I'm joined by JD of Locked On San Jose Sharks to preview tonight's matchup. We'll talk about the biggest stories surrounding each team, talk about some of the players on the rosters for these squads, talk about the keys to the game, and give our final thoughts and predictions. All of this coming up on a Friday episode of Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans. Welcome back to the Locked On Stars podcast, the only daily podcast covering the Dallas Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Dane Lewis, your local expert on all things Dallas Stars hockey, coming to you on this Friday, November 11th, and today's episode is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline.net is where the game starts. Thank you guys for tuning into today's episode, for making us your first listen of the day. Be sure to hit subscribe on YouTube, follow us on your favorite podcasting platform, and follow us on social media at Dane_Lewis on Twitter is where you can find my personal account, and you can find the show at Locked On Stars on both Instagram and Twitter. But without any further hesitation, let's jump into today's episode of Crossover with JD from Locked On Sharks. All right, joining me now on today's episode of Locked On Stars, a special crossover edition, Locked On Stars and Locked On San Jose Sharks. JD Young covering the Sharks and the Barracuda. JD, how's it going? I know the Sharks playing right now as we speak, recording this on Thursday night, tied at 1 with the Blues after one period. How's everything in Sharks land? I know maybe not super bright, but still some fun stories with this team through the first month of the season or so.
Yeah, I mean, the results haven't been there, but the Sharks have been kind of threading the needle of being exciting to watch recently, but also losing games. And if you're the fan of the tanking, the Sharks are doing it properly right now. So yes, it's been a interesting couple of weeks for the Sharks since the season started.
Yeah, it feels like at least once a week they're, at the focal point of the NHL, beating, a team that they shouldn't, or at least being competitive with a team that maybe they shouldn't be competitive with. But a huge part of that has to do with the play of one Erik Karlsson, who I, for one, am still shocked with the numbers that he's put up through the early stages of this season, although he's definitely not at the end of his career, certainly not the player that he once was when he was winning Norris trophies in Ottawa. But what's it been like watching him play this well this season? I mean, he had 10 goals all of last year, and I believe he's now matched that through, 11, 12 games?
Yeah, so the Sharks, as we're talking right now, they're playing their 15th game of the season. Karlsson has 10 goals and 10 assists, again, as he has an assist tonight. So he has 20 points in his first 14-plus games, and it's incredible to see Karlsson playing at this level. And we've seen glimpses of it, time from time here and there. I jokingly called him an avocado this summer because when he's playing right, it's perfect, right? But then there's if you miss the window too early or too late, it's a mess. But he has been playing outstanding, and I think it's because as much as you hate to say it, Brent Burns, between the dueling banjos between Brent Burns and Erik Karlsson, now there's a clear pecking order in the defensemen, and it's Erik Karlsson. That's everybody else. So Karlsson gets all the primo power play time. He gets all the, the best ice time, best opportunities, and he is making the most of it for a team that struggles to score goals on a consistent basis. He has been the engine for this team, and I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know how long his paper mache groin can hold out, but I'm going to enjoy it while I can before the dark winter falls upon Erik Karlsson's season.
Yeah, hopefully it's something that can, somewhat be sustainable just for his sake and for Sharks fans' sake, as far as having, fun players to watch. And he's certainly at the forefront of that right now. And like you said, he's already involved in this game against the Blues, and certainly a player that I have to imagine that the Stars are highlighting and looking to somehow contain, even though many teams haven't been successful so far this season.
Yes. And I mean, I have to ask you, of course, with the Stars, they've gotten off to a pretty good start. Joe Pavelski, 75 years old, continuing to play like he's one of the best players in the NHL. How is this man doing it? I mean, you look back now in hindsight when the Sharks kind of made the decision of signing a much younger Evander Kane instead of re-signing Joe Pavelski. And the Sharks have egg on their face because one, Evander Kane, we know exactly what Evander Kane has done, but two, Joe Pavelski is playing like he's beating the crap out of Father Time right now. It's insane.
Yeah, it's unreal, and I think the expectations were high for him coming in this season because he set new career highs. I think in goals and assists last season, and points as well as a result. And so, yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine. I mean, we see even this year across other sports. I mean, it seems like there's kind of a changing of the guard in the NFL as far as quarterbacks, and here's Joe Pavelski, like you said, just one of the oldest players in the league and not missing a beat. And I think a big part of it is he's playing alongside Rope Hintz and Jason Robertson, who are two of the best young players in this league. And so there's that aspect of it. I think that being reunited with his old coach, someone that Sharks fans are very familiar with, and Pete DeBoer, I think that both of those guys, there's probably a little bit of extra motivation for them coming in each and every day, knowing that one, DeBoer, neither of them have won a cup, but I mean, Joe's time, you have to imagine, is running out. And so there's kind of this idea of, DeBoer's looking for his first one, and I don't know, who knows how long he's going to coach, and Pavelski also looking for his first. And so I think there's something to be said there as well, just because there was, from what I understand, a really good relationship between those two back whenever, the Sharks were kind of, in their heyday in the mid 2010s and making it to the cup finals. So I think it's a mixture of things, but it's also just, the cliche, he works hard, he takes care of himself, and it pays off on the ice night in and night out.
Yeah, and I think for Pavelski, a guy like that, where he was never the most athletically gifted guy, so you don't see those things deteriorate, right? And he was always, I'm just going to outwork you, and I'm just going to be smarter than you, and I'm just going to work harder than you and grind you out more. And we've seen, like, that's why I think his game lasts so long, because again, Joe Pavelski, not known for his skating, but he's going to get to the right place at the right time, and he's going to be smarter than you, and he's going to know, yeah, he's just going to outwork you. And I'm glad to see, as someone who's a big Joe Pavelski fan, I know my former co-host never really liked Joe Pavelski, thought he was overrated, but I am glad that Joe Pavelski is thriving, and it'd be pretty awesome to see him lift the cup one day. But yeah, it's good to see him doing his thing.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's would make for a very interesting story for his career overall of being with a team for so long like the Sharks. But you win a cup with a team like the Stars. You like, which team is he remembered for the most? I think that makes it an interesting discussion, and he's just an easy guy to root for. I think a lot of people share the sentiment you have, like you want to see him do well just because he's a good guy, good presence in the locker room, and the Stars social media team loves to share content of his family as well, and so Stars fans eat that up too.
Yes. I know the Stars have had some goaltender issues. Guys have been what's kind of the story with the goalies right now as we're getting ready for a game on Friday?
Yeah, it's a weird situation right now, but I think that we're kind of at the end of the storm. Jake Ottinger got injured, I guess, about 2 weeks ago. I think this Saturday will have been about 2 weeks. Something, I think, with lower body, ankle, something with his foot, got pulled from a game, or really took himself out of a game against the New York Rangers. And then it's been Scott Wedgwood for the last 4 games or so in net, and the Stars went 3-1. So he did his job, won the majority of the games that he started as the backup. But Ottinger skated on Thursday morning with the team in practice, and Coach DeBoer kind of hinted at the idea that he could play, but they're going to evaluate him a little bit more on Friday morning and into the afternoon. So not necessarily a game time decision from what I'm seeing, but seems like there's a good chance we could see Jake Ottinger back in net. And even if not, I think if Wedgwood needs one more start to make sure that Jake's good to go, for the longevity is the key here. I think the Stars would be okay in that situation because Scott has done pretty well so far this season in his backup role. He had played a couple games even before Jake went down. So I know Stars fans are excited to see Ottinger back in net just because before he's went really down, good. you could say that he was the best goalie in the league, and you're not going to hear an argument against that from me or really anyone else who supports the Stars. So I know I'm excited to see him back as well because he looked like a man on a mission in the playoffs last year, and he hasn't really missed a beat.
Yeah, and expect James Reimer in net for the Sharks. Kaapo Kähkönen made the start on Thursday against the Blues. Reimer has been the better of the two goalies between Kaapo Kähkönen and Reimer, but we've seen with him, he started out really hot, but it has been kind of a little bit of kind of cracks in the foundation with James Reimer recently. And he's kind of given up a couple more goals than we're used to seeing from him recently. So we'll, expect to see Reimer in net. Sharks did have quite a bit of rest, so probably going to get prime James Reimer against the Stars. So
yeah, and I think that makes for an interesting matchup. I know Reimer sometimes has shut down the Stars in the past, and there's been times where the Stars have gotten the best of him. So certainly makes for an interesting story, and would love to dig in to this Sharks roster a little bit. But first, I know we got to say thank you to a sponsor of today's episode, BetOnline, sponsoring today's episode. They're the number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. You can get the best and latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there, from football to basketball to soccer, esports. They've got it all at betonline.net. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find those as well at BetOnline. And they are always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting fix. So you can head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. You can even bet on this Stars-Sharks game if you do feel so inclined. I don't have the numbers on that right now, but I have to imagine the Stars at home, that the sports book's got to be favoring the Stars there. But if you're feeling a little bit spicy and want to put some money on the Sharks, you never know. You never know what could happen.
I do not recommend.
You heard it here from your local San Jose Sharks expert. Does not recommend, but you can. It's your money, and you can do with it whatever you well please. But you want to do it at betonline.net, because BetOnline is where the game starts. All right. Thank you again for listening to today's crossover episode, Locked on Stars, Locked on Sharks. The Stars returning home after 3 games on the road to take on a Sharks team that is at the bottom of the standings, but as we talked about, have some good players like Erik Karlsson. Timo Meier seems to kind of finally be hitting his stride after what seemed like a little bit of a slow start to the season. But looking at this roster, JD, there's a lot of names I'm not super familiar with, a lot of guys that I know are young or relatively new to the NHL. And so who are some guys on this team that you think are under the radar players that could be good for the Sharks this season, or that could be really nice key pieces for them, down the road when the rebuild is hopefully at an end, just to kind of give a little bit of insight to the Stars fans who might not know the Sharks, system like someone like yourself would?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Sharks, the engine of their team right now is Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, and Erik Karlsson. And then you have kind of some of the mainstay guys like Logan Couture and Kevin Labanc, who've been around for a little while. But general manager Mike Grier this offseason, he kind of made it his mission to try to add a lot of depth pieces to the bottom 6, which has been a sore spot for the Sharks recently. And, they would either have guys who were too old or guys that were too young and too inexperienced and throwing them into these roles that they weren't ready for. And right now, the Sharks actually don't have like any rookies really playing on their team. They're kind of letting those guys, like they're fun, exciting prospects like Thomas Bordeleau and William Eklund, who both got tasted in the NHL last year. Right now, they're playing on their AHL team in the San Jose Barracuda, and kind of letting these guys marinate a little bit. So this is kind of different from what we've seen with Sharks before. They would more or less kind of rush guys in if they were ready or not to try to play in the NHL, because they really didn't have any other options. But none of the guys that they added this offseason, they traded for Luukkonen from the Preds. They signed Oscar Lindblom, who was a former Flyers player. They got Nico Sturm, who's been a great signing. He was a former Wild, and then he ended up on the Avs last year. All these guys are just kind of their kind of patchwork guys until the Sharks are ready. All their young guys are kind of ready to kind of make the jump. So Nico Sturm's probably been the best of the new guys. I think he's got like five goals so far this season, and he's been their third line center, has been really kind of solidified that spot, which has been a revolving door the last couple years. Nick Bonino was playing there, and he's lost that job, and I think he's going to be the 4C right now after playing 3C, 2. He's been on the second line wing, but now he's kind of settled into this 4C spot. But it's just a lot of these guys that are just kind of NHL dudes who don't really get you too excited, but they're going to come in, they're going to do their job, but there's just not much of a ceiling with a lot of these guys.
I gotcha. And it's interesting you talk about, so many of the premier young guys playing with the Barracuda right now. Is that something that you personally think is the right move, or would you want to see them at the NHL this season? Because I know this is a season where the Sharks are expected to finish at the bottom. Do you think that they maybe get moved near the end of the season? Are you, I guess, a fan of kind of how this is being handled, or do you think it could maybe be handled a little bit differently?
No, I mean, I totally get it. I like watching young, fun players, but at the same time, if they're going to come up and they're going to play 10 minutes a night, and we know David Quinn, especially with his time with the Rangers, where he has a little bit of a short leash with these young players, or he tends to have a short leash. I don't want to, but let them go play Barracuda. They can go play, their 15, 18, 20 minutes a night, go have fun down there and kind of learn all the ins and outs of pro hockey and kind of work on those rookie mistakes and then kind of build up their other skill sets. So it's like, if you're not scoring goals, what else can you do? So they will play at some point this year. Their Bordelot and Eklund are just too good to stay down the AHL all year. And I'm sure the Sharks were going to be very active sellers at the deadline. So Sharks fans, we will get our Bordelot and Eklund, but for now, I mean, I think it's a good recipe of trying to get a premier draft position right now and not ruin the kids. So yeah, I'm okay with it right now. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I know it's kind of different depending on the GM and depending on the rest of the coaching staff from every team as well. Some teams might want to throw their young guys in and make it trial by fire, but I think that there is some worth in being patient. Like we said, longevity kind of the key here with what the Sharks are doing, not looking to have immediate success per se, but maybe 4, 5, 6 years from now, you look back at this time and you say, the waiting was worth it with some of these young guys that could potentially be, stars one day in this league. Not Dallas stars necessarily, but
No.
superstars, if you will.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough couple years, but you can kind of start to see the light at the end of the tunnel for some of the, for the Sharks here. And once their cap starts to get cleared up a little bit here, and some of these young guys that you've been waiting on kind of start to make their impact, hopefully start to be playing relevant hockey again here in the next couple of years. So for the Stars, though, I mean, this is a kind of a good mix of a very veteran laden team, but you also have a lot of young stars, kind of bursting on the scene over the past couple of years. I know you have Colorado, who's kind of the Goliath in the division, but it feels like the Stars might be a little slept on here when it comes to being a potential kind of Stanley Cup dark horse.
Yeah, I think that's a great position to put them in now is dark horse. I think they've been great, and I know there's a lot of Stars fans that are there. You have the ones, of course, that are on the extreme of this team is going to the Stanley Cup Finals, which I think they have the potential. But like you said, there's a lot of really good teams. Colorado is started off kind of slow, but they're starting to kind of pick up some ground and kind of figuring out who they are post winning the cup and post Kadri and so a few other key pieces as well. And of course, without their captain Landeskog. So I think that there is a case to be made for the Stars being a top 3 team in the Central Division, which I've been predicting since the draft back in the summer and was called crazy by even a few other of our hosts on this network. And it is early in the season, so I can't.
No victory laps, 13 games in the season.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Especially in a division where St. Louis is in last and Chicago, I believe, is 4th at the moment. So it's still way too early to tell. But if this early season is any indication, I think the Stars can certainly be in a competition for a top 3 spot in the division. Who else is going to be there still kind of feels like it's up in the air. But yeah, I think, the Stars are performing above expectations, which that just seems to be the Pete DeBoer special. As he comes in the first season with his team, he's like, let's go to heights that this team has either never been to before or hasn't been to in recent years. Although the Stars didn't go to the Cup a few years ago, that still feels like a whole other lifetime ago that happened. So it's a good start to the season, and one that I think Stars fans could have seen happening, but weren't. This wasn't a certainty that we were going to see a start like this with an explosive offense that's scoring 3, 4, 5 goals a game, and also a defense and goaltending that on most nights is only surrendering 1 or 2 goals. So it's a really good place to be right now, and the hot start allows them to maybe if they have a slip up later in the year, you can kind of lean back on this hot start and still be competitive in the division. Whereas last year it was a slow start and the Stars just had to chip away and didn't clinch a playoff spot until there was 2 games left in the season.
Yeah, and two, especially without having Ottinger for the past couple of weeks, being able to kind of still stack wins, that's going to be huge. And going back to Ottinger again, like that guy, we saw he almost stole a series from the Flames last year against. The Flames were a much more talented team, and he almost stole that series, single-handedly stole that series. So, you can see where if the Stars, if they're aggressive at the deadline, Colorado, I think Colorado is going to be Colorado. That's going to be but if you look at the one Colorado weakness, right, it's that goaltending position, and you think the Stars would definitely have an edge there if they do play in the playoffs. So you never know, man. You never know. So yeah, it would be fun to see Joe Pavelski win that cup. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be great for a lot of people on the team, especially a lot of the veterans, especially. But
Yep.
Pavelski, I think NHL fans as a whole would like to see him more. And then Jamie Benn would lift it, and then they would all be really sad again. Stars fans would be happy, but the rest of the NHL probably not as happy to see Jamie Benn win a cup as they would be Joe Pavelski.
I wasn't gonna go down that road, but anyway. All right, so let's get into the actual game. So, what do you think is the kind of the key or the formula for the Stars to win this game?
I'm going to assume that Jake Ottinger is playing, and I'm historically very bad at picking who's starting games because I normally do record the evening before games happen, but especially with the guy who's been injured, you never know. But let's say he is starting. I think the key is to help him get reacclimated to playing, NHL games. He's been practicing and rehabbing, but we know from watching games that it's always different. And even though he was playing really well before the injury, the Stars skaters in front of him need to do a good job of giving him, a lead to play with. The offense needs to do very well. They had a really bad night in Winnipeg on Tuesday, so they need to rebound there. And then the defense needs to do a good job of trying to limit the scoring opportunities, whether that's blocking shots or, winning puck battles and, not allowing the Sharks to just pepper the goal. If Jake Ottinger starts and, he just needs a little bit of time to get rolling. I think it's understandable given how long it's been since he's played, but that's really going to be the key to the game is give Ottinger a chance to win and put him in a good position, and you'll probably find success. And I think what's different about this Stars team as compared to last year is there's a little bit more confidence going into a game like this. Last year, it was a toss-up with the really bad teams. Montreal beat the Stars at home. The Devils last year, who are good now, but this is last year's Devils beat the Stars at home. So this team was notorious for playing down to their competition. And I think, with all due respect to the Sharks, I think the Stars have a better roster and have a better chance on paper to win this game. And one that they need to win because then they're going on a 3-game road trip right after. So put Ottinger in a good position, and he's going to hopefully help carry the team to victory. And what would you say is the same thing for the Sharks? What if the Sharks are wanting to win this game, if they're wanting to get revenge on their old coach and old captain, what is the key to the game for them?
Yeah, I mean, the Sharks formula for success recently has been kind of just hang in there at even strength and then try to win the special teams battle. The Sharks penalty kill is one of the best in the league. Surprisingly, I think they're second right now in their PK. But then the Dallas power play is also very, very good. So that should be a really interesting matchup. The Sharks power play has started to get going a little bit here recently, but this is going to be probably their biggest test they faced it recently. I know this Dallas BK is also clicking at a high rate right now as well. So for the Sharks, you're gonna have to hang in there at 5-1-5, and then hopefully you can win the special teams battle. And James Reimer continues to save your bacon as he's been doing for the past year plus now that he's been with the Sharks. So, and it's gonna have to be the top guys: Timo Meier, Tomas Hertl, Erik Karlsson. If those guys, they have been very good. If they can continue to perform at the level that they've been performing, and then hopefully you can win the special teams battle, that's going to be your road to success. So, but the way the Stars team that is one of the best teams that the Sharks have seen this so far this young season, and the Sharks, they have been playing pretty good, but I mean, you've had 3 shootout losses, 2 to the Ducks and 1 to the Panthers, and then you blow a game to the Lightning in the last minute. So I don't see much opportunity for success for the Sharks in this game. So
yeah, it's interesting you mentioned the special teams battle. I think that there is potential we could see the Sharks on the power play a lot. I was trying to find it and had no luck, but this time last week, the Stars, I believe, were first in the league in penalty minutes. They've done a little bit better as of late. I think they only had 2 or 4 on Tuesday night against the Jets. So, but there's been games where they have 10 or 12 or 14 penalty minutes. So they're undisciplined at times. So there is a chance that we could see the Sharks on the man advantage quite a bit. And if that's the case, I think the Stars they're going to have to lean into that PK. But a penalty kill can only do so well for so long because you're literally down a man.
Yeah, the Stars are averaging 10 penalty minutes, 10 minutes and 4 seconds of penalty minutes per game. The Sharks 747, so the Sharks tend to be a little bit more, more likely to not get penalized. So when it comes to actual like raw penalties, 55 penalties for the Sharks drawn, 47 taken. So the Sharks are, like you said, more likely to be on the power play. But again, I know the Sharks power play has been playing much better, especially with David Quinn inserting his new system. They were very, very slow to start, but over the past couple of weeks, they've kind of started getting things clicking, especially with Erik Karlsson running it. But there's a big test for them against this very, very stout Stars penalty kill.
Yeah, it should be an interesting matchup there. And I agree. I think it could very well come down to who wins the special teams and who can hold on longer on the 5-on-5, because the Stars 5-on-5 is good, but there are moments where it can go flat and they miss their shots or they're just sloppy with the puck. And Stars fans know that that's what we saw a good dosage of on Tuesday night. But back at home, I feel like it's just the splits as far as home and away games have been heavily in favor of the road for the Stars early in the season. So they play better at home. They did that, last year, and you would expect that of an NHL team to play better in their own buildings. So Friday night, fans haven't been to a game in a while, so it should be a fun atmosphere and hopefully a fun and entertaining game. And, if the Sharks fans, if the majority of them are in tank mode and wanting, as many losses as possible, maybe it can still be an entertaining game there. And maybe we can get a Karlsson hat trick and a Pavelski hat trick or something. It would just be the ultimate Stars Sharks matchup.
Yes. So who do you got winning this game?
I'm going to go with the Stars, and I'll go ahead and throw out. I'll say 5-2. But Karlsson's likely getting one of those Sharks goals, and I think, as far as I like to try to predict first goal, and I think I've gotten it once this year, and it was Jason Robertson. Nice. He's a safe bet, but I'll go Roope Hintz in this one.
Yeah, I got Stars 4-2. I think Pavelski gets 2, and I'm gonna go Tomas Hertl, and I'll go Couture. I think scoring for the Sharks, but yeah, 4-2. I'd say it's gonna be a pretty entertaining game though. So
I would hope so, and I would think so. You just never know what you're gonna get, and that's the beauty of hockey. Sometimes you just walk into a game and you get one of the best games you've seen all year. So
yes,
you just never know. You got to have that confidence every single game in an 82 game season.
Or sometimes you watch the Sharks for a long time and you're just like, oh God, I got to do this again. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, like you said though, light at the end of the tunnel, and
light at the end of the tunnel. Connor Bedard and Teal is going to look amazing. Connor Bedard, William Eklund slinging passes to Connor Bedard, it will be worth it. So that's the hope right there.
You mentioned the teal. What are your thoughts on the new jerseys for the Sharks, especially the home all teal look? Are you a fan or not so much?
So when I first saw them, I wasn't a fan. And then I saw them like on TV, actually like in game, I was like, okay, these look cool. And then when I went to the actual tank and saw them, I was like, oh, okay, those are awesome. I do love the away ones. I ended up ordering an away one with the white, black, and a little bit of teal. But the all teal look, it grew on me, especially once you see them in person. It's a very clean look.
Yeah, I think that's where I lie on it. I saw it and I was like, oh, these are okay. And then the more I've seen them on TV, I like them. Obviously, they'll be wearing the roads, but I have liked the roads ever since they announced them.
The roads
so
are...
I'm excited to see those. And I feel the same way. You talk about the all teal, the all black that the Stars do, which I think they are wearing those in this game on Friday. Those had to grow on me a little bit as well. And I know some people, Stars fans and non-Stars fans alike, still don't like them too much, but it just kind of depends on who you ask.
Yeah, and I'm really excited though for the kind of the Seals jersey that's supposed to be coming here in the next couple of weeks. So very, very excited for those. I've tried to talk to my wife and to let me buy one, but she quickly put the kibosh on that after I just bought a new away jersey. So yeah.
You got to pick. You got to take what you can get, I guess, with NHL jerseys because they're very expensive. But JD, where can Stars fans, if they're interested in getting any additional information on the Sharks, where can they find you, the show, and everything else that you guys do at Locked On Sharks?
You can find, of course, the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. You can listen wherever you get podcasts. So if you want to follow a tanking team and see what that's like, Locked On Sharks is where to go. You can follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole, where it's mostly stupid jokes, but people for some reason like it. So yes.
Hey, you gotta get the stupid jokes out while you can. We don't know how much longer Twitter's going to be around, so
it might have been turned off while we were recording this. So who knows?
I honestly would not complain. I would not complain one bit.
Dane, where can the people find you?
Yeah, we're the same way as far as podcasting goes, free and available on podcasting platforms, on YouTube. We just crossed 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is super cool. So if any Sharks fans feel so, yeah, it feels good. If any Sharks fans feel so inclined to, if you want to pick a team that isn't trying to tank at the moment, we'd love to have you along for the ride. And social media at Dane_Lewis. It's the same way. If I'm not tweeting about the Stars, it's movies, other Dallas sports, the Cowboys, they're a very frustrating team to follow. So you'll get a little bit of that, and then just at Locked On Stars, Twitter and Instagram.